The sky over Varnic 7 was dark green. Clouds moved slowly above the thick jungle. Strange birds flew in circles, making low sounds. Trees were tall and wide, and their leaves glowed a little under the sunlight. The Earth exploration team landed near a small river. The ship's doors opened and 5 humans stepped out carefully. Rehan walked behind the others. He was quiet but always alert. He looked at every tree and listened to every sound. Varnic 7 was not like Earth. The air felt heavy and warm. Everything smelled of plants and wet soil. Stay close, said the team leader, Captain Raza. We're only here to scan and observe. No deep travel. Without report, the team moved forward slowly, scanning the area. Rehan looked at a group of tall flowers. They moved when he got close, but there was no wind. He leaned down to check the ground. A strange mark was there, like a footprint but bigger than a man's foot. It had 3 sharp toes and a round back. Captain Rehan said, I found something, but before the captain could answer, a loud noise came from the sky. A blue flash crossed above the jungle. Then a wave of strange energy hit the group. All the lights on their suits blinked. Rehan lost balance. The ground shook. Trees moved wildly. Then everything went dark. Rehan opened his eyes slowly. His head hurt. He was alone. The team was gone. Their voices were not in his ear. The radio was dead. He stood up and looked around. The jungle was thicker here. The plants looked different. There was no sign of the others. Calm down, Rehan told himself. They might be close. He started walking. He followed broken branches and soft steps. But after half an hour he found no one. The jungle got darker as evening came. The sounds grew louder. Strange creatures moved between trees. Rehan held a small light stick and kept walking. Suddenly he stopped. Someone or something was watching him. He turned around fast. A tall figure stood in the shadows. She stepped forward slowly. She was strong and tall. Her skin was deep bronze. The sharp horns curved back from her head. Her eyes glowed like amber. She wore armor made of bones and leather. In one hand she held a long spear. Her long dark hair was braided and tied behind her neck. Rehan didn't move. He raised both hands to show peace. I'm not here to fight, he said slowly. The tall woman tilted her head. She looked at him from head to toe. She spoke in a deep voice. The words were not English, but Rehan had a translator device. He turned it on and waited. You are not from this land, her voice came through slowly. You do not belong here. I came with others, Rehan said, but I got lost. I am not your enemy. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke. Again, I am Thera of the Urani. I have watched you. You did not run. You did not attack. You speak with respect. This is rare for your kind. Rehan blinked. You've seen humans before, she nodded. Long ago your kind came with fire and metal. They broke the mountain. We drove them away. We did not forget. Rehan lowered his eyes. That was not me. I only came to explore in peace. Thera walked closer. Her steps were slow but sure. She stopped just a few feet away from him. Her eyes studied his face. My people bond only once, she said. Only one bond in a lifetime. We feel it when it is true. I have seen you. I have felt the pull. I have chosen. Rehan's heart beat faster. He didn't know what to say. Was she serious, or was this some kind of test? I don't understand, he said. Thera stepped back and pointed to the jungle behind her. You will come with me. You will see my people. They will know if the bond is real. Rehan hesitated. He looked back at the jungle behind him. His team might still be searching, but if he said no, he might lose the chance to understand these people. And he didn't feel fear from Thera. He felt something strange, but not fear. All right, he said, I will come. Thera gave a small nod. Then she turned and started walking. Rehan followed her through thick trees and soft earth. Strange glowing insects floated in the air. A giant beast walked past them without even looking. Thera did not stop. She knew the path well. After some time they reached a hidden valley. It was full of warm light and soft sounds. There were houses built into stone. Fires burned inside big bowls. People like Thera walked around holding tools and weapons. When they saw Rehan, they stopped and watched. Thera spoke to an elder. The old woman looked at Rehan with sharp eyes. Then she turned to Thera and nodded. He will stay in the guest shelter. Thera said to him, you will rest. Tomorrow the elders "We'll speak." Rehen entered the small shelter. It was simple, but clean. A soft mat was on the ground. He sat down and took a deep breath, looked out at the valley. Thera stood near the fire watching him. She did not smile, but her eyes were calm. Rand knew this was only the beginning, was alone on a strange world surrounded by people who once fought his kind. But he had made a connection. Something rare had started to grow, was not sure what tomorrow would bring. But for now he felt a strange peace, and deep inside he knew his life had already changed. The next morning, Rehen woke up to soft light coming through the shelter wall. The roof was made of smooth leaves and thin branches, but it kept out the cold, the sounds of birds. And moving water filled the air. Stepped outside slowly. The Urani village was already full of life. People walked with baskets of fruit and pots of herbs. Warriors trained near a flat rock using long sticks and sharp knives. Others worked with stone and bone shaping tools or carving symbols. Shira stood near a tree, speaking to two young warriors. She wore a thick leather strap across her chest, and a new spear rested on her back. When she saw Rehen, she walked toward him with slow, strong steps. "You are awake," she said in her deep voice. "Yes," Rehen said. "Thank you for shelter." She gave a short nod. "The elders wait for you. Follow me." Rehen followed her through the village. People looked at him with quiet interest. Some nodded with respect. Others kept their distance. Thera said nothing as they passed, but her presence was enough to keep anyone from getting too close. At the center of the village stood a large stone circle. In the middle sat 4 elders. Their faces were lined with age, but their eyes were sharp. Each wore a robe made of dark cloth and light feathers. They watched Rang closely. As he stepped into the circle, Thera stood beside him, silent and still. An elder spoke first. Her voice was soft but strong. "I am your first voice of the council. This place is sacred. You stand here not as an enemy, but as a guest. You were brought by Thera, who claims you as her bond. We must see if your spirit is true." Ren took a deep breath. "I did not come to harm. I was lost after the storm. I only want peace and to learn about your people." Yura nodded. "Then you will learn, and we will see what lives in your heart. But the bond of the Urani is not light. It is not a game. It is a path that shapes your future." Thera says the pull of bond has come to her. "Our ways say this is rare and must be honored." Rehen looked at Thera. She was calm, but her eyes were focused. "I don't fully understand your bond," he said, "but I respect it. I did not lie. I only wish to walk this path honestly." The elders spoke among themselves in low voices. Then Yura raised her hand. "You will begin as a learner. You will live with us, learn our ways, know our pain and strength. Only then can you speak of the bond." Ren bowed his head. "I will learn." The elders stood and walked away. Slowly Thara turned to him. "You have passed the first gate. Now we begin for the next few days." Ren followed Thera around the village. She showed him how the Urani trained, how they cooked, how they watched the stars at night and told stories. Around the fire he learned that the Urani did not believe in owning things. They shared food and tools. All decisions were made by the elders and respected without question. Rain helped in small ways. He carried water, brought herbs from the forest, and cleaned the training grounds. Some tasks were hard, others were peaceful, but all of them helped him feel close to the Urania. At night he sat by the fire and listened to old songs sung in deep voices. The Urani believed that the stars were their ancestors watching from above. Every child was told they came from the stars and would return there one day. In evening, Thera sat beside him near the fire. She spoke softly. "You are quiet. You listen. This is good. Many talk before they think. I want to understand." Ren said, "Your people are different from mine, but I feel something here, a kind of truth." She looked at him for a long moment. "When I saw you, I felt something inside. A pull. We call it the call of the bond. It cannot be explained. It cannot be forced. It chooses us." "Do you feel it now?" Ren asked. "Yes," she said. "It is still there, stronger than before. I have never felt it with anyone else." Rehen was silent. He looked at the fire, thinking of his home, of his crew, of the mission that brought him here, but all those thoughts seemed far away now. "I don't know where this path leads," he said, "but I will walk it with respect." The next morning, Thera brought him to a new place outside the village. It was a stone field covered in symbols. Carved lines ran across the ground, forming circles and stars. "This is the field of paths," Thera said. "All who walk the bond must pass here. You will face a trial, not of strength, but of spirit." Ran stepped onto the stone. The ground felt warm under his boots. He looked at the symbols around him. They glowed faintly with light from the rising sun. Suddenly a soft wind moved through the field. He heard voices, not loud but close like whispers in. "The trees do not fear," Thera said. "They are only memories. The stones test your mind, not your body." Rehen closed his eyes. He felt waves of emotion rising, fear, sadness, joy, memories from Earth. Memories of his family, his old life, his friends. Who did not come on this trip? Opened his eyes slowly and looked around. The field was quiet again. The whispers were gone. "You stood still," Thera said. "You faced the wind without running. This is the sign of a steady heart." Rehen looked at her and gave a small smile. Was that the trial? That was the first, she said. "There will be more. The bond is not easy. It must be earned with truth and time." They walked back to the village as the sun rose higher. The jungle behind them glowed with new light. Ren felt tired but strong. He had passed another step. He was not just a guest now. He was part of something deeper. As they entered the village, Thera looked at him and spoke again. "The elders will watch you. The people will test you, but I believe in the path I have chosen." Rehen nodded. "And I will walk beside you until the path shows us where to go next." Days passed slowly, but Ren was no longer a stranger in the Irani village. He was now seen as a learner, a quiet one who did not ask too much and did not speak without purpose. The villagers began to greet him with nods. Some even shared food without being a skeptic. Thyra stayed close to him. Every day she watched how he moved, how he listened, how he reacted to things around him. She was not soft in her words, but Rehen could feel that. She respected his efforts. In morning she took him into the jungle. Beyond the village the path was narrow, full of twisted roots and sharp leaves. But Ren followed without complaint. "We are going to the Whispering Pool," Thera said. "It is a place of silence and thought. No one speaks there, not even me." Ren nodded quietly. After walking for nearly an hour, they reached a small clearing. A shallow pool rested in the center, with water so clear that the trees above looked like they grew from its surface. The air was still here. The sounds of the forest were softer. Thera stepped to the edge of the pool. She knelt down and placed both hands in the water. Her eyes closed slowly. Her body stayed still like a statue. Rhen watched for a moment, then sat down nearby. He didn't speak. He didn't move much. He just looked at the water and listened to his own breath. Thought of Earth again. He remembered the busy streets, the tall buildings, the cold air in the mornings. He thought of his mother's old garden, of the songs that played in the city, of the quiet nights before lunch. Had come so far, yet this place, this village, this pool made him feel something different, something real. After a long time, Thera opened her eyes. "Instead, you did well," she said. "Many humans cannot sit in silence. Their minds are loud. They look for sound to feel safe. You did not." Ren stood with her. "It felt peaceful here. I remember my home." She looked at him. "That is the right use of silence, not to forget, but to remember without fear." They walked back as the sun climbed higher in the sky. Later that day, Ren joined a group of Irani builders. Near the village wall, they were shaping large stones to form a new structure. It was slow work done with careful hands and sharp tools, no machines, just skill and patience. Watched how they carved with smooth movements. Each cut had a meaning. Each line followed old ways. Rain offered to help. They gave him a tool and showed him where to begin. He worked slowly, copying what he saw. He didn't talk and they didn't stop him. Thera came by and watched for a while. "He is learning fast." One of the builders said. "His hands are not soft. He listens," Thera said. "That is why he learns." That night, Ren sat by the fire again. This time others sat with him. They shared stories of past battles, of great storms, of strange animals from the jungle. Some were sad, some were funny. Ren laughed with them. For the first time, then a young girl asked him to tell a story. He paused for a moment, then began speaking slowly. "There's a story on Earth of a bird that flies across the world to find the sun. It leaves its home every year and follows the warmth. It never stops. It never forgets the way. Even when storms come, it keeps flying because it believes the sun will rise again." The Irani listened quietly. "It is a small bird," Ren said, "but it carries hope in its wings." When he finished, they sat in silence for a few breaths. Then one of the elders nodded. "That is a true story," he said. "Even if the bird is not ours, the meaning is." Thera looked at Ren from across the fire. Her eyes held something softer than before, a silent pride perhaps, or a growing trust. The next morning, Thera called Ren early. She handed him a long staff made of dark wood. "Today we train," she said. "You will learn our way of defense." Ren followed her to the flat stone area. Where the warriors trained, others were already there, moving through drills with focus. And Power Thera stood before him and showed the first form a slow circle with the staff. A careful step to the side, a rise of the armor hand copied her movement again and again. He stumbled at first but didn't stop, showed the second form a forward motion, then a step back with a twist. It was a dance, but also a test of balance and control her hand practiced until sweat covered his face and his arms felt heavy. You do not need to fight now, Thera said, but one day you may need to defend. What matters? So you learn now. I understand, Ren said. I want to be ready if that day comes later. As they rested, Thera asked, does your world train all people to fight? Some do, he replied. But not all. We try to avoid war. Now we believe in peace first. That is good, she said, but peace without strength is like a roof without walls. It cannot stand in the storm. Rehen nodded. I agree. That's why I'm here. I want to become stronger, not just in body, but in spirit. She looked at him closely. You are changing. Your voice is firmer. Your eyes are steady. You are not the same man I found in the forest. Maybe this place is changing me, Ren said, or maybe I am just remembering who I used to be. That evening, the sky turned orange and gold. The sun dipped below the trees, and the stars began to appear one by one. They lit the sky like tiny eyes. Watching the world, Bellarine sat alone for a while near the edge of the village. He looked at the stars and smiled. This was not home, but it didn't feel strange anymore. He was still learning, still growing, but he knew something for Soraya was no longer just a visitor. He was part of something, knowing the journey was only just beginning. The wind was stronger that morning. Cold air moved across the trees, carrying a strange feeling. It was not just weather, something was different. Ren felt it in his chest. He stood outside the Urani village, watching the jungle. The colors looked the same: green leaves, brown trunks, soft light between the branches. But the silence was heavier than before. Even the birds were quiet. Thera stood beside him, spear in hand. Her eyes searched the trees. Animals are hiding, she said. They sense danger. Ren nodded. What kind of danger? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked toward the elders' circled village. Was awake but quiet. The warriors had already gathered near the center. Their faces were serious. The elders sat in the stone circle, speaking in low voice. When Thera arrived, one of the elders looked up. Something moves in the forest, she said. The air feels wrong. We must send scouts. Rehen stepped forward. Let me go too. I want to help. The elder studied him. You are not trained to track or fight in our way. I can still help, Rehen said. I can watch. I can signal. I will not slow anyone down. Thera looked at the elder and nodded. He sees clearly. He has steady feet. I trust him. The elder gave a short nod. Then go, but return before dark. The forest is no friend at night. They left within the hour. Thera led to Urani scouts. Rehen followed behind with his staff. He walked quietly, stepping over roots and brushing low leaves out of his way. He moved fast but careful. Thera pointed to broken branches and small tracks on the ground. Something heavy passed this way, she said. But it does not walk like an animal. To even to smooth. Could it be a machine? Ren escaped. Thyra didn't reply, but her face changed. She looked more serious now as they moved deeper. The jungle grew darker. The trees were taller here, and the light was thin. The air smelled sharp like metal and ashen. They saw a large round object half covered in vines sat in a small clearing. It was smooth and silver with blinking lights and sharp lines. A small antenna slowly turned, sending out soft beeping sounds. Rehan stepped closer and whispered, that's a signal pod from the Alliance patrol ships. But why is it here? Thera walked around the pod. Her hand reached out and hovered near the metal. It washes, she said. It listens. Rehen tapped a small screen on the pod. A map appeared showing the village marked in red. The machine had been tracking them. This isn't good, Rehen said. If the Alliance finds out what's here, they'll come fast. They don't trust native tribes, especially ones with old power like yours. Thera's voice was firm. We must destroy it. Before Rehen could answer, the sound of fast steps came from behind. Run. One of the scouts shouted. Two small flying drones burst through the trees. Sharp metal arms pointed forward. They moved fast, buzzing like angry insects. Rehen grabbed his staff and hit one in midair. It crashed to the ground and sparked. The other shot a flash of light that hit a tree behind. Therash moved like wind. Her spear spun and struck the drone. It broke apart and felt the jungle was still again. We need to leave now, Rehen said. More could come. These are scout bots. The real trouble comes after. Thera nodded. Take a piece of the pod. We must show the elders. Ren broke off a small panel with glowing lights and followed her back through the trees. They reached the village before nightfall. All the elders listened as Ren explained the pod and the drones. He showed them the broken parts and the map. This is a warning, Thera said. The world beyond has found us again. An old elder named Kura spoke slowly. Long ago we hid ourselves from outside. We kept our power quiet. We let the stars forget us. But now they return. What will they do? If they find this place, another elder asked, they will study you, Ren. So they will question your ways. They may take control for safety, they say, but really for fear. The elders spoke for a long time. Ren waited outside with Thirash, looked up at the sky. The stars were just starting to appear. We do not fear the sky, she said, but we do not trust it either. Ren nodded. I understand your world is pure. Theirs is not. She looked at him. And what about you, Ren? You came from the sky. Do you still belong to it? He thought for a moment, then said, I came from it, but I don't feel part of it anymore. This place has changed me. I see things different now. She stepped closer. Then we must stand together. You know they're machines. We know the land we may need both. Later that night, the elders called everyone to the fire circle. The whole village gathered to hear their words. Kura stood and raised his hand. People of Urani, a signal has come from the stars. The old world stirs again. It sees our light and grows curious. But we will not run. We will not hide. We will prepare. He looked at Rehen. This one from the sky has chosen to walk our path. He has faced trial and shadow. He has not turned away. He will now be a full learner of Urani. He will carry the mark of Bond. Thera stepped forward and drew a symbol on Rehen's shoulder with dark paint. A circle with 3 lines, one for truth, one for strength, one for spirit. Villagers clapped softly and placed hands over their hearts. Rehen felt his chest tighten, not with fear, but with pride. He was no longer just a visitor. He was now part of something ancient and strong. As the fire burned bright and the stars blinked above, Rehen knew this was a turning point. The world beyond was watching, but he was ready, and he would not face it alone. Life on the station slowly returned to normal after the arrival of the Celian guests. The crew got used to seeing Thera in the hallways, labs, and even in the canteen. Some smiled at her. Some stayed quiet. Others kept their distance. Rian noticed the change. He heard whispers in the hallway and soft laughter when he walked by with Thera. Someone had started a rumor that he liked her. A few found it funny. Others didn't approve. He didn't care much about what people thought before, but now he didn't want Thera to feel unwanted or judged because of him. One afternoon, he sat in the engine bay fixing a sensor wire. His thoughts were all over the place. He wondered if Thera heard those thoughts too. She entered the room quietly, like she often did. She stood behind him for a few seconds without speaking. Then she sat on the floor beside him. You're thinking too much again, she said softly. He gave a small smile. Is that bad? She shook her head. No, it's just loud. Ren sighed. I'm sorry if people have said things. They don't know you like I do. They don't understand what you're really like. Thera tilted her head. They don't need to understand me. I'm not here to please them, but I do feel something else. You were worried about something deeper. Ren stayed quiet. He didn't know how to say what was in his heart. They say I like you, he finally said, and maybe I do. But I don't want that to cause trouble for you. Thera looked at him carefully. Why would your feelings cause trouble? Because we're different, he said. You're from a peaceful race. You read minds. You understand things I can't even imagine. And I'm just a human with a noisy head full of confusion. Thera smiled. That's true. Your mind is always moving, always jumping, but that's what makes it interesting. She reached out and gently touched his hand. Do you know what I heard the first day I met you? Rand shook his head. I heard fear, wonder, curiosity, a few strange thoughts too, she said with a soft laugh. But I didn't hear cruelty or pride or hate. Your thoughts were honest even when they were clumsy. Rand looked down at her hand resting on his. So you weren't angry? No. I was curious. I found your thoughts funny, but also kinda wanted to understand them more. That's why I kept coming back. He let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. I thought I embarrassed myself in front of you. You did, she said with a smile. But it was the right kind of embarrassment. It showed you cared. They sat in silence for a while. Machines hummed in the background. Wires sparked gently under Ren's half-finished repair. Thera looked around, then asked, why do humans hide their feelings so much? You feel so much inside, but only show a small part. Rehen thought about it. Maybe because feelings make us weak. Sometimes it's easier to keep them inside than to say them out loud, but they still affect everything she said. Even when silent, they shape your words, your actions, your choices. He nodded slowly. That's true, I guess I just didn't want to ruin anything between us. You didn't, she said. If anything, you helped me feel closer. A sudden voice called them from the intercom. Rehan, please report to the upper lab immediately. Rehan stood up quickly. They probably need help with the scanner again. You want to come with me? Thera nodded and stood beside him as they walked through the hallway. A group of crew members passed by. One of them whispered, just loud enough for Rehan to hear, there goes the mind reader and her fanboy. Rehan's face turned red. Thera stopped for a second and looked back at the group. She didn't say anything, but her eyes held calm strength. The crew members quickly looked away. Inside the upper lab, Rehan fixed the scanner in a few minutes. The scientist thanked him. Thera stood by the wall, watching quietly. After the task was done, Rehan turned to her. Sorry about that. Some people can be cruel. Thera gave a small smile. They fear what they don't understand. That's normal, but it's still wrong, Rehan said. You've helped this station more than they know. She nodded. I don't need everyone to like me, but I do care about how you see me. Rehan was surprised. Me? Why? Because you try, she said. You try to understand me even when it's hard. You try to respect my ways. You try to speak when words feel heavy. That means more than silence. Rehan looked at her eyes, silver, calm, deep like water. He finally said the words he kept inside for days. I like you, Thera, not just because you're different, not just because you're smart or strong. I like you because when you're around, my thoughts feel clear. Even when they're messy. She stepped closer and placed her hand on his chest. I already knew that. She said, your heart spoke long before your mouth did. Rehan laughed gently. Of course it did. They walked together back toward the main deck, side by side, quiet, but no longer holding back. Wait for others. Thought didn't matter anymore. A bond had formed, not just through words or gestures, but through thoughts shared between two very different minds. And somehow in the middle of space, they both felt a little more understood. Dark clouds rolled across the sky that evening, covering the stars with thick shadows. A strange silence spread through the station. It felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. Rehan sat in the control room, reading system signals on the main screen. His fingers moved slowly, his eyes sharp. Something was wrong, but he couldn't yet explain it. There around him felt tense. Machines hummed as usual, but the rhythm was off. There were no alerts, no warnings, but Rehan trusted his instincts. They had saved him before. Thera entered the room quietly. Her eyes moved over the screens, then to Rehan. You feel it too, she said, and nodded. Something's coming. I don't know what, but it's not good. She stepped beside him and watched the blinking lights. One section of the board flashed twice, then stopped. Show me that again, she said. Her hand tapped the screen. The station's outer sensors had picked up a low-wave signal. It was short, quiet, and not repeated, but it didn't belong to their network. That's not natural, Thera said. It's watching us again. Rehan ran a deep scan. A long line of code appeared on the screen. Strange symbols and numbers flashed like a secret message trying to hide. It's a trace code. Rehan said something is trying to connect to our systems from outside. He tapped a few commands and cut off the link, then locked the security firewalls tight. But just then the lights flickered. The air grew colder. The screen turned black for a moment, then glowed red. System breach, the computer voice said. Unauthorized access detected in data core. Rehan stood quickly. It got in somehow. We have to stop it. Thera stepped forward, her voice steady. Show me the source. I can stop it from spreading. Rehan guided her to the data core room. They moved fast through the hallway. Red lights flashed on the walls, and soft alarms echoed in the background. Inside the data room, sparks flew from a small panel. The lights above flickered, and the air smelled like burning wires. Rehan opened the main console. The screen showed a moving pattern of symbols. It looked like the same trace code, now feeding into the station's memory. It's learning, he said. It's growing with every second. We don't have time, Thera said. Connect me to the system. I will use the old mind link. Rehan hesitated. Are you sure? That system isn't built for your kind. It could be dangerous. She looked at him calmly. If we wait longer, everything here will break down. The station, the files, the people. I can handle it, but I need your help to guide me. He nodded and opened the interface. A small circle of light glowed at the center of the console. Thera placed her hands on it and closed her eyes. There became still again. Her breathing slowed. Her body stood still like stone. Rehan stayed beside her, watching the screens. The system showed the trace code moving in every direction. searching for open doors, trying to break deeper. Placed his hand gently on her shoulder. You're not alone, I'm here, keep going. Inside her mind, Thera saw a storm of lights and wires. Strange voices whispered and broken pieces data flew past her. Like wind through trees, searched for the center, for the root of the signal. Something old was inside, something not just code, but thought, a distant echo from far away. You do not belong here, she said in her mind. This place is not yours to take, the voice replied cold and low. Your world is not hidden anymore, you shine too bright, the stars will answer. Thera felt the pressure grow, but she did not step back. She focused on one point, a bright memory, a face, a voice, Rayhan's voice. Reach for it and pull the light closer. The storm began to slow, the whispers faded. Her hand watched the code freeze on the screen, then disappear. The red light stopped blinking, the alarms ended. The console returned to normal. Thera opened her eyes and took a deep breath. It's done, she said softly. The link is broken. Rehan helped her sit down. Are you all right? She nodded slowly. Yes, but something important happened? I touched a thought. Not from here, something is coming. Rehan sat beside her. You mean from the Alliance, from their ships? No, she said. Worse, something older, something that watches worlds and waits until they are ready to be taken. Rehan was quiet. He believed her. Her words held truth beyond logic. We stopped it this time, he said, but now we know it's out there. She looked at him, then placed her hand over his. I couldn't have done it without you, she said. Your mind stayed calm. It helped me stay strong. You've done the same for me many times, he said with a smile. Outside the station, the stars slowly returned one by one. They blinked back through the fading clouds. In the control room, the rest of the crew returned and began checking systems. Rehan and Thera remained in the data room for a while longer, letting the silence settle. For the first time, Rehan didn't feel like a visitor on this station. He felt like someone who had found his place in Thera. The girl from another world, who once only watched from afar, now sat beside him, like someone who belonged here too. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The station was quiet after the recent danger. Everyone worked normally again, but something felt different. There was a new sense of calm in the air, like something important had passed and left a mark. Thera had mostly recovered from the mind link. She moved slowly, but with grace. Her presence was still soft, but now more familiar. The crew no longer stared or whispered as much. Some even smiled at her. Others greeted her politely. Lirahan was proud of that change. He noticed how Thera made things better, not just through her skills, but through her way of being. She had touched people without saying much, just by being herself. That morning, Rahan got a message from the control room. Celian ship preparing for departure in 2 hours, please. Escort Ambassador Thera to docking bay. He stared at the message for a few seconds. His heart felt heavy. He had known from the beginning that her stay was temporary, but now that the moment was here, he didn't feel ready to say goodbye. He walked to her quarters with slow steps. When he reached the door, it opened. Before he could knock, Thera was already waiting. She wore her formal robe, again silver, with flowing patterns. Her eyes met his with calm warmth. You came, she said. Of course, he replied. They asked me to escort you, but even if they didn't, I would have come. She nodded and stepped beside him. They walked together through the long hallway. Some crew members nodded to her with respect. One even said, safe journey. Ambassador Rehan looked at her. You made quite an impression here. I didn't do much, she replied. You did more than you know. He said. They reached the docking bay. The large gate to the Celian ship stood open. Lights blinked softly. The air felt still. Her hand turned to her, trying to find the right words. So this is it, you're leaving? Thera looked at him with quiet eyes. Yes, for now. Rehan nodded slowly. He wanted to say so many things, but his thoughts were not clear. His heart beat fast, but his words came out slowly. I just wanted to say thank you for everything, for trusting me, for not judging me, for helping all of us. She looked at him with a soft smile. You don't need to thank me. I was never here to judge, only to learn. Rehan took a step closer. I thought I would be embarrassed when this moment came, but I'm not. I'm just sad because you care. She said. Yes, he said, and I don't know if I'll ever see you again. Thera's silver eyes shimmered slightly. Do you want to know what I hear right now? Rehan gave a small, nervous laugh. I'm afraid to ask. She smiled wider. I hear truth, I hear worry, I hear care, and something more. You want to speak it, but you're unsure. He took a deep breath. Then I'll say it. I like you, Thera. I don't know what that means between human and Celian, or what comes next, but I had to say it before you leave. Thera stepped forward. So they stood just inches apart. She looked into his eyes, then gave a smirk just like the first time. He embarrassed himself in front of her and blinked. You're smirking again, why? Because you finally said what you felt. And because I already knew, she replied, and smiled, and looked down for a second figure. She gently touched the side of his head with her fingers. A calm wave passed through his mind, a quiet whisper like wind in leaves, you are not alone. Her voice echoed in his thoughts, even if I am far away, my thoughts will reach you. He looked up surprised. You left a link, a light one, she said. Not strong like the last mind merge, but enough to share warmth and silence. When you need peace, Rehan nodded. His throat felt tight, but his chest was full of something bright. I'll miss you, he said quietly. I know, she said. I'll miss you too. They stood like that for a few seconds, then a soft chime rang from the gate. The Celian ship was ready to leave Ethera, turned toward the ramp, then looked back one last time. Ren, thank you for letting your thoughts speak even when it was hard. That is the bravest thing of all. Ren raised his hand in a slow wave. Safe travels, Thera. May your skies be clear. She smiled and walked up the ramp. The gate closed behind her with a soft hum. The ship lifted slowly, then glided into the stars. Ren stood alone, watching the empty gate. He felt both sad and calm. The silence around him didn't feel cold, it felt peaceful. Returned to his room and sat by the small window that looked out into space. The stars blinked quietly beyond the glass, then he felt it, a soft whisper in his mind, not words, but presence, a quiet comfort like someone saying, I'm still here. Ren closed his eyes and smiled. Somewhere out there was a silver-eyed girl with calm thoughts and a sharp smirk, and somehow she had changed his life forever, even without words. They had understood each other in a way deeper than Mostyn. In that silent bond between two minds from different worlds, Rehan felt something rare. He felt truly seen.